All right. Hello, everybody. Today is an exciting day because we are going to be talking about graduation rates and equity in student achievement. So as school counselors, it's super important for us to understand all the dynamics that go along with influencing graduation rates and how we can all work together as school counselors to kind of foster this equity and ensure students, all of them, have an equal opportunity to succeed. And as we've looked at the Ask a National model, one of the things in the terms of ethics that we do as counselors is we believe that all students can learn, all students have the ability to be successful in school, and all students, hopefully all of those things come together to make sure that graduation rates are high for as many of our students as possible. So what is the graduation rate? What does that mean? So a graduation rate, that represents the percentage of students who successfully complete their high school education within a significant period of time. And usually it's about 4 years. And this is a really vital metric because it reflects the effectiveness of our institutional systems in preparing students for the next phase of their lives, whether that's higher education, career pathways, or other different endeavors. One of the things that I'm seeing that I'm concerned about is the teachers are starting to not be able to have the ability to fail students as they move through. So instead of failing these students and holding them back in classes where they need to be held back in, we are seeing them just be promoted to the next grade, into the next grade. So my concern is eventually, what does it mean? Is the graduation rate important? Does it mean something that someone has achieved something? And, for the most part, yes, it's fine. But this is a trend that I've been kind of keeping my eye on. And I'm kind of like, I wonder where this is going to go. So, of course, there is a ton of factors that influence your graduation rate. First one of those is socioeconomic status. So if we look at research, it's going to show that consistently students that come from low-income families are at a higher risk of dropping out compared to their peers who are more affluent. So economic disparities, they usually translate into unequal access of resources. It's unequal. So that goes about quality education, academic support, and extracurricular activities. Another factor that influences rates is racial and ethnic disparities. So unfortunately, racial and ethnic minorities, particularly those who are Hispanic and Black students, they have experienced lower graduation rates compared to their white counterparts. So of course, these disparities are really deeply rooted in systematic inequalities. And these inequalities, just like we all know about, is they're not able to access good education. They don't get as many resources. The policies are sometimes discriminatory, and there is a whole lot of societal bias. Another one is academic preparedness. So students who struggle academically or face learning challenges might be at a higher risk of dropping out. So as school counselors and as school faculty and administrators, it's essential that we start to provide tailored support and interventions to address academic barriers and to ensure that all students receive the assistance that they need to succeed. Next thing that influences is the school climate. A supportive school environment, a positive school climate is characterized by supported relationships. We're supporting each other, we're working together. Next one is effective discipline policies and engaging learning environments. And all of these can really impact the graduation rates. I will make a comment once again on effective discipline policies. I like to read stuff just about schools and behavior management, things like that in general. And one of the main things that I have seen teachers complain about the most is they are seeing discipline just go down, the tube. They feel disrespected in their classes because they cannot, that they are not backed up. If a student is causing problems, a lot of times they will have to empty their class. If one student is being very annoying and like turning over desks and things like that. And another one I was reading about is high school the other day. some of these kids just roam the halls. They just randomly, they just leave class and roam the halls. So you put the teacher in a terrible position because she's responsible for the child, but he's just decided he's just going to go. So she calls and she's like, hey, the student is out of class. So instead of the administration coming and finding the child and giving them appropriate discipline, they'll just send them back with no consequence. So the kid knows this, and the kid is just like, school's not important to me, so I'm not going to make a lot of effort to listen to her. And then I get to see it once again on the side of administration. Their hands are tied as well. They can't really expel kids. They can't really suspend them. If a kid has an IEP that has special discipline in there, then that way the school is unable to follow through with normal discipline for the district. So I find that's a hot button topic with me. So if you ever want to talk about discipline and conduct in schools, please let me know. So next part of the factors is family and community engagement. So if you've got families that are involved, if you've got the community that's buying into students' educations, that's going to play a crucial role in their academic success. So building these strong partnerships between families, between the community it's going to make people even more successful. So here we go, fostering equity in student achievement. What do we need to do to foster equity? First one is, of course, addressing those socioeconomic disparities. I can't talk today. We need to have interventions that are targeted to support our students from low-income families, such as providing free or reduced meals, offering academic tutoring or programs, ensuring equitable distribution of school resources across all of the schools. So once again, on my soapbox, I get really frustrated. I thought I had a Coke around here. I guess I don't. I get really frustrated when schools won't allow outside people to pay for the meals. Like I read about this one guy and he's like, hey, I've got money. I would like to buy lunch for all of the students for the entire school year, breakfast and lunch. So you would think as a community person wanting to collaborate with the school, you'd be like, heck yeah, you can come in and pay for all our school lunches. But the district was like, no, that messes up our numbers. We're not going to let you do that. And once again, I get very frustrated about things like that because when people are trying to make an effort and they're trying to work with the schools, for whatever reason, will say no. And I'm sure the schools have maybe legal reasons they can't do that or not. But it just seems to me that can't we figure out a way to help them be successful? Okay. Next up is promoting culturally responsive practices. So we need to embrace diversity, inclusivity in education. How do we do this? We do it by incorporating cultural responsive practices, teaching practices that honor students' backgrounds, their language, their experiences, and we need to work to create an inclusive curriculum that reflects diverse perspectives and histories. Dr. Moon gets on her soapbox again. I feel like right now, in many, many places, especially here in the South, we are moving towards a community of people who are not respecting differences, who are not talking about histories and how they have moved on and how our students are suffering from things that have happened in the past. We need to be able to look back and we need to talk about these things. It's very important. And I feel like right now we are moving backwards, especially here in my home state. So school counselors, we need to look at that and we need to be ready to advocate for those different things. Another thing that is extremely important is implementing early intervention programs. Dolly Parton is probably the coolest person I know because she has this program where she will send books out to, I believe it's like pre-K students. If you just go online and ask, she sends fun books to them. So that's important because she's part of the community. She is working with us to do things. And through these early intervention programs, we can start to identify students who might be at risk of academic failure early on. And we can start to give them proactive interventions that are going to address those needs. And so a kid come in and may have a ton of needs. They may need academic support. They may need counseling services. They might need mentorship programs to kind of get them on track very, very young. So we can say, hey, we're setting the stage for you to be able to move on to graduation. I need something to drink. My mouth's dry. Okay, next up is, as school counselors, we need to help build supportive school communities. So we need to foster a school climate that is characterized by respect, which is characterized by empathy. Again, we're going to look at that inclusivity, Something that we may want to talk about eventually is implementing restorative justice practices to address disciplinary issues in a fair and equitable manner, and focusing on repairing harm and restoring relationships. I'll be honest, I do not know a whole lot about using restorative justice, but it is something that I'm interested in. It is on my reading list so that I will learn about that and I'll be able to advocate better as a school counselor or as a school counselor educator for you. We also need to empower student voice and agency. Let's encourage student involvement in the decision-making process. Let's bring them all together and let's hear what they have to say, and provide opportunities for them to talk about things, to advocate for their needs, and to talk about what they're interested in. We've got to listen to them, because if we're just trying to move through this just continue to just push everyone on through, that's not helpful, because we're not hearing what the students need and what's going to help them to succeed. So empowering students to take ownership of their education can really help to increase engagement with them. Okay, now I'm back. Sorry, I had to stop and get a water, and I wasn't sure exactly how to pause. Anyway, we're back. Yay, okay. What's some other things that we need to do in fostering equity in student achievement? Let's take a look at trauma-informed practices. Lots of kids coming into our schools are coming from places of trauma. So as a school counselor, you need to be prepared to meet those needs and to be helpful as you kind of need to become a trauma-informed specialist. And as I was talking about the restorative justice, one of the best things that you can do as a counselor is keep a notebook. And every time you learn a new technique, put that in the notebook, but make a list of all of the things that you are not familiar with and that you want to learn more about. One of those things is trauma-informed practices, so that you can be a trauma-informed counselor. So lots of students, including those who are coming from underserved communities, they may have experienced trauma, and that trauma is going to impact their academic performance, their overall well-being. And so if we implement trauma-informed practices, we're going to be able to create a safe and supportive learning environment. And we're going to also be able to learn the effect of trauma on our students and being able to give them appropriate interventions and support services. Next thing that we will do as counselors is check out data-informed decision-making. So we're going to use data analysis to identify disparities in graduation rates among different populations. As we talked about the Ask a National model, one of the things that you will do every year is collect data on all of the things that you are working on. And then at the end of the year, you're going to hang out with your advisory committee and you're going to say, hey, this is the data that I've collected. These are things that I have noticed. And you're going to get your data also from a lot of different places. The school secretary should be your very, very good friend, because she should be able to pull off data for you as well. So you can look at the data and you can say, hey, I've noticed that our 5th grade male students who are coming from Hispanic backgrounds are struggling in attendance. Or you may say that these middle school students, let's say like 7th and 8th grade middle school students, as they move from their math in one class to math in the next year, that there's a gap and these students are not learning math as well as they should be able to. So you're like, okay, here's a disparity. So you will take these and you're going to look at that student population and you are going to figure out, how am I going to close the gap? How am I going to figure out interventions that I can use with these kids that can be successful and will help them be served? So by disaggregating the data, we can look at it by race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status. We can look at English proficiency and a whole bunch of other factors. And by doing this, we're going to be able to understand the unique challenges that are faced by student groups and start to implement evidence-based strategies to address them. And as a school counselors, you know, we always look at attendance, we look at achievement, and we look at discipline. Those are the 3 things that we're always, as school counselors, keeping our eye on. So data analysis is extremely helpful. Another thing as a school counselor that you want to do is partner with the community. There's a whole bunch of different community organizations. Go out there and find out who they are and start collaborating with them. And who might they be? That could be nonprofits, it could be local businesses, And there's always other stakeholders, and that may come from your community, city hall, different places like that. But go out and ask, say, hey, can you help us because we need assistance? And most people are more than happy to open their doors to you. So they're going to give you some more resources and some more support services to students, to the school, and to their families. And these partnerships can help to address the broader economic, I can't talk today, the broader economic problems that they have. It can give some support services to address this. And this is going to do a lot of good stuff. We're going to see this impact student achievement. We are going to see them maybe getting more access to healthcare, getting access to housing stability, and other economic opportunities. One of the things that I thought was neatest when I was a school counselor is Mercedes happened to be had a Mercedes plant near our school area. And they had these, like the tricked out Mercedes SUVs. It was like a van, but it was also like an SUV. It was weird. Had this magical skylight in it. And they would take kids to doctor's appointments. So if you were unable to take your child to an appointment and you don't have a car, you live in a very rural area, then they would come in their fancy Mercedes and they would pick you up and they would drop you off to the doctors, and then they would come and get you again. And I thought that is something that's amazing because they are giving back to the community for free, something that they have. And not only does it make them look good, but it also makes everyone feel glad that that's going on in the community. Get some more water. All right, so another thing that's going to help in fostering equity is offering professional development for educators. We've got to be educated. We've got to educate our teachers. We've got to educate our administrators and our support staff. Part of the job of being a counselor is always being that one, like, hey, let me teach you some new things that might be helpful for you. And you will find a lot of times that staff, they're tired or they don't want to do it. They don't want to come to a presentation. And you can always try to work around that. Like maybe you could make 5 or 10-minute videos and just send them a video clip and be like, hey, I want you to learn about this. However you do it, get with your colleagues and figure out how can I teach these kids so that they can learn more to be able to help their students. Because the more they know, the more they have a background to be able to do that. And you can do it a lot of different ways, of course. You can do workshops and seminars. You can do a collaborative learning program with the community that focuses on topics such as implicit bias and then cultural sustaining teaching. Okay, so what can school counselors do? Let's take a look at some students and how we would be able to help them. So here's our first scenario. This is Emily, and she is a sophomore, and she's really been struggling with anxiety and low self-esteem. And that's starting to affect her academic performance and motivation. So we're talking to her. What does she say? She says she often feels overwhelmed by this workload from school that she has. She's starting to doubt herself, and she's saying, I don't know if I can succeed in school. This is hard. So first thing off, as a school counselor, is I'm going to meet with Emily, and I'm going to give her individual counseling and support. So by using my basic counseling skills, I'm going to actively listen, I'm going to give her empathy, and I'm going to help her explore the underlying causes of her anxiety and her self-doubt. And we're going to work together. I'm going to teach her some different coping strategies. I'm going to show her some goal setting techniques so the two of us can work together to set some goals. And I'm going to teach her some self-management skills. And all of this, I'm doing all of this with her because I want her to feel confident in school and I want her to be resilient. Another thing that I'm going to do for her is connect her with additional support services. So this could be peer tutoring. This could be a support group for students who are dealing with similar challenges. And I'm going to use that to kind of further enhance her academics and also feeling good about herself and feeling like that she can be successful. Okay, next one is Jamal. He has a little bit of problems with college and career readiness. So Jamal's a senior student. He's the first of his family to consider attending college, but he feels overwhelmed by all this, the college application process, which, for young people, it can seem very, very overwhelming. He doesn't have information about financial aid options, and he's really struggling to even say what he wants to do as a career. He's like, well, I don't really know. So the thing the school counselor would do is meet with him and help him get a really comprehensive college and career readiness guidance, kind of come together and try to figure that all out. So they can help Jamil in researching colleges, looking at different majors, identifying scholarship opportunities that might align with his interest, or maybe he's not interested in that at all. All kids don't have to go to college. Some people, they're just not college kids. It's just not going to be fun for them. So as a school counselor, you need to be prepared to talk to them about other options that they have. If they wanted to go into military, they could always do that. The thing that I remember most as a school counselor is they took all the school counselors to this place called Maccabee Steel. And it is a place in Tuscaloosa that does a lot of stuff with steel, heating it up and turning it into other things and welding different things like that. They gave us these cards, and it was kind of like a playing card, like a baseball card that had stats on it. And on the front, it had a picture of a welder or someone like that. And then on the back, it talked about all the different things that they do to become a welder. And it was fascinating because say that they ask you to come in kind of as a try-on apprentice. You will get to work with a master apprentice, not an apprentice, but you'll work with a master, right, during the day. And then at night, they would have classes where you would go into even more depth about how the different things work. So they would do this for 4 weeks, and they're getting paid the whole time that they're doing this. Once they've done that, then they can move over into a different apprenticeship program. Their fees go up, their pay goes up. And I mean, these guys were getting paid like $40 an hour. And these master guys were making like $80 to $100 an hour because it's such a niche area that people don't know how to do it. And they were very concerned there because they said our masters are aging out. They're boomers and they're starting to move on. We don't have a young population that's coming up behind. So they were very, very interested in getting these students to do that. My favorite thing about it was they had a doctor and a nurse on site. So if your wife or your child is sick, then they can just take them to the doctor that's on site. And they have a cafeteria there, and their pay goes up over time. And I was just like, this is perfect for a lot of my young men that I know. It's something that they could go and do and be successful and probably have a fun time, because all the guys that did work there seemed like they were interesting people. Okay, but let's say that Jamal says, no, I really think I want to go to college. So the school counselor is going to help him through that. He's going to help him navigate the college application process. He's going to show how are you going to complete this application? Let me help you learn about writing essays and how do you get letters of recommendation from your teachers. Let's talk about financial aid options like grants and scholarships, how student loan works, and all of these things you're putting together to help him feel that college is more affordable and more accessible for his family. Okay, here we go, Maria. And Maria, she is a junior student, and we're seeing signs of depression and withdrawal because she's had a family crisis. And her grades have started to decline, and she's talking about thoughts of self-harm. What is the school counselor going to do? So this is one of those things, trauma-informed counseling, that we need to be aware of, and we need to know how to work with students that are dealing with trauma and how trauma-informed counseling can affect her schooling, which is going to affect what she's going to do, the college and career readiness. So first thing that the school counselor is going to do is a thorough assessment of Maria's health risk and see, is she going to do harm? So I want, as a school counselor, to really prioritize her safety and well-being and connect her with crisis intervention services. Maybe that's a crisis hotline. Maybe it's a mental health professional that the district will allow you to recommend. And you're going to provide ongoing support to Maria to make sure that she gets the appropriate treatment and therapy. And another thing you're going to do is collaborate. You're going to collaborate with Maria's family, with her teachers, and other support systems so that you can kind of come up with a coordinated academic plan for her emotional recovery. And also, part of that would be getting late work from her, getting her late work, this assignments, schoolwork, where you can give that to her, where the teachers are working together, the counselors are working together, and the people in the school are working together to help her out. Okay, here's another student we'd like to keep our eye on. It's Javier, and he is a sophomore student, and he belongs to a historically marginalized community. He is experiencing discrimination. He's also experiencing bullying, and that's based on his ethnicity and his cultural background. So he is feeling very isolated from school activities, and he's struggling to find a sense of belonging. What does the school counselor do? The school counselor's role is to be an advocate, and we've talked about this before, going with the Ask a National model. We are an advocate for equity, and we are advocate for inclusion. And this is we're going to do this by addressing his experiences of discrimination. And we're going to work really hard to foster a supportive and inclusive school environment. So as a school counselor, I'm going to be hanging out with my administrator, working with them, trying to see what anti-bullying policies can we implement. I'm talking with my advisory committee, which is the people, teachers. I'm going to have faculty members. I'm going to have my administration, outside people who have, stakeholders in this. We're all going to get together and we're going to talk about it. We need to deal with anti-bullying policies. We need to train the staff so that they understand cultural competency. The counselor can do a lot of different things. Talking with your advisory committee, what can we do? Maybe that is organizing diversity and inclusion workshops. Maybe it is making a cultural awareness event. Maybe we're putting together peer support groups to talk about things. The peer support group could even be a small group that you're working with, a group of students who are also experiencing this. And you are working to support diversity and to promote mutual respect and understanding among the students. I'm also going to provide some individual support to Javier, which is going to be like individual counseling sessions that focus on building resilience and coping skills. And I'm going to see, maybe can I connect him with a mentor or someone else like that. So as a school counselor, you're very, very busy doing all of these different things, but it's very important because we are all working towards college and career readiness. And as we do that, we need to focus on these things in order to be successful. So I hope you enjoyed that fascinating lecture about college and career readiness and graduation dates. If you have any questions for me, you can always send me an email at moon@ulm.edu, and I am happy to talk with you. And if you have any ideas or anything like that, I'm always available to talk about those things with you. So have a great day.